Welcome to the Better Than Me podcast with John Conover. I have the privilege today of having Khalil Marcano on our episode. And for those of you that are tuning in, you get to listen to these episodes. And what you're doing is you're learning right alongside of me. I get to interview people from the business world, from entrepreneurship. And basically, the idea is I'm trying to pick up as many tips and ideas as I possibly can to move my own businesses forward. And so those of you that listen in, you get to learn right alongside of me. And today I'm pumped because we've got a fellow podcaster, a fellow financial advisor, and somebody that's into cars, watches, wealth in general, luxury. And so for me, this side of the entrepreneurship game is probably one of the more entertaining sides. You got one of the best communicators I've ever had the privilege of interacting with. And so Khalil, my brother, thank you so much for being on today, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. And listening to that intro, people tell me all the time how good I am at what I do, and I'm hearing it out of you. I'm like, man, that is a fantastic, incredible intro. I love it.
Well, I got to butter you up a little bit and get that smile just a little bit bigger. That might be one of your top five features. It's a good thing this is like on camera, man. Right? People aren't just going to be listening to it. They're going to be seeing that giant charismatic smile that you're rocking. So here we go. No, we're diving in because what was so cool about the last time you and I talked is I got to meet some of your crew. And for those of you that are listening in, it's like this guy, he's built a financial services business, but now he started a podcast called Wheels and Wealth. And the only way I'm ever going to qualify to get on your show is I'm going to have to go blow some money on a luxury car, drive it into your lot and get on the show. But that is a very cool concept. I want to talk about it.
Okay. And let's be clear for the viewers and the listeners. You've had the ability to do that for quite some time. You decide to spend your money in other areas, which is totally fine. Cars are not necessarily a passion of yours, but I want to be clear.
Golf might have ate up my car money.
Right. You've had the ability to do that for quite some time, right? I think that you fall more on the conservative side when it comes to money, which is totally cool. I wish that I did sometimes. I'd have more of it right now.
No, it's all good. So this new podcast that you have, I think you've wrapped up what you're considering season 1, and
we're putting a wrap on it. Yeah.
It's incredible. And some of the guests you've had on from all walks of life and different entrepreneurs, you're hearing their stories. Let's talk about what made you want to get into that space. Let's talk about some of these interviews. Let's talk about what you're learning and help guests understand. Let's pass along some info. Okay. What made you get into the podcasting space? What made you want to start the Wheels and Wealth?
So roughly about 3 years ago, we're talking 2020. Well, let's even go before that. I've always been a car fanatic. You know that I love cars. I was the type of kid that, I ran to the corner with my friends and we'd spend hours on the corner, looking at cars, playing That's My Car. Whoever saw the hottest car and claimed it first coming down the street, that went into your imaginary portfolio of cars.
Damn.
And you had to keep track of them because if somebody called BS on what you were saying, you had to be able to run back all the cars that were in this portfolio.
How many cars did you build up in your portfolio?
And the color, the make, the model, the color, all of that stuff. And I knew for a long, I loved cars, man. I always did. For me, it wasn't just when I hear people that speak about wealth and they speak about success and they're like, cars are not important. To me, it's like, who are you to talk about what's important? You do things with your money that I would never think about doing. Not you personally. I mean,
I get it.
Greater you. There are people who gamble, and I love it for them. That's not my bag.
Right.
It's not what I do. I like cars, and there are a lot of car enthusiasts. And if you really want to get deep, that's a whole nother set of alternative assets when you do it correctly.
I think we'll get to that today. Yeah, I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah. But as far as starting the podcast to be, get to it, about 3 years ago, I had an idea that I wanted to interview car enthusiasts that were successful entrepreneurs, but also successful intrapreneurs. And for those of you who don't know what an intrapreneur is, I know I didn't know the term before 3 years ago. It's an employee that does incredibly well, and they are a key person moving someone else's business forward, because the reality is everybody does not want to own a business. There are times I don't want to own a business. I'm telling you flat out right now, right? All the freedom, all of that's still, when the bad times come, it's bad. And it's like, hey, there is something to be said. If you're getting a husky, steady paycheck and you like what you do on an employee salary and you're moving somebody else's business forward and you're getting a great lifestyle in return for that and great money, I don't really see a problem with that.
Gary V talks about finding your place in the business world, and sometimes it's not always at the top. And he said that the number 3, 4, and 5 person at Facebook are still billionaires. So who cares? Killing
you. They're murdering the average and the above average business owner. So
yeah.
There's no job security. All right, I still got the billions. I don't need the security.
Well, so I think it's more about it's not necessarily about the battle between being a business owner or not. I think it's, do you still think like a business owner? Because I think to climb into that corporation and say, I'm going to move the corporation forward, and as a result, move my career forward, you still got to be thinking about the business itself.
Yes.
And then you've interviewed guys like that and women like that.
Yeah. 100%. But right, to that point, we're interviewing successful entrepreneurs as well as intrapreneurs that are car enthusiasts. And the premise of the idea is, for me at least, was all of the car content out there that's on social media today. It's a bunch of new car reviews, or it's a really supremely gearhead channel where they're really digging deep into the mechanics of an engine and all of that stuff, which is cool. As far as the new car reviews are concerned, it's a press car going around to all the biggest YouTubers.
Yep.
And the success content, for the most part, is a lot of famous people speaking to other famous people. And I love what they've accomplished. I'm a fan. I'm a supporter. We all have our favorite actors, entertainers, all of those things. But being in the business that we come from, which is the financial background, you sit with so many different people that come from so many different walks of life. And for me, I thought to myself, man, there's somebody out there selling toilet seats. That's a billionaire right now, right? There are doctors, attorneys. There are people selling paper, water bottles. There's so many people in so many different careers and different businesses that are killing it, that they just have so much to offer that LeBron James can't necessarily give me, right? If I'm asking LeBron, yes, I understand you work hard, you practice, you do all of those things, but LeBron can't teach me at 5'9" to grow another 1.5 feet and how to shoot a basketball precisely in my 30s. You understand what I'm saying to you? Enough
certain skills and knowledge are duplicatable, other things are not.
Right. So that's kind of where the premise came from. And, I talk a lot, as you know, so I'm going to try to be a little bit more defined and quick to the point. But, a few years ago, I thought about it, and then I ran it past a couple of people, and a few folks, one in particular, one of my guests, I remember his first reaction was like, that's your idea. That's going to be the one that really, really takes you. Some people,
it lights you up. I can see it in your eyes.
Oh yeah, man. I could talk about cars. I could talk about the wheel arch on a Porsche 911 GT3 RS or a Ferrari, F12 TDF for an hour. Not the car, just the arch, right? But yeah, and other people were like, hey, yeah, aren't there people out there kind of doing that already? And I was like, not really, but it's not like the way I have it planned. And like most ideas, it came and it went. And I found myself last October, to be specific, actually, just past our 1-year anniversary, I found myself really frustrated with the financial services business. And I said, this is not something that I really want to continue doing long range. I just found myself frustrated with clients, frustrated with how people viewed what we do.
Hmm.
And, they pay more attention, unfortunately, a lot of people, to the cable bill that cost them $200 a month for internet and unlimited channels than they do for purchasing life insurance and setting aside money in a Roth IRA. And I was like, man, this is killing me. I can't continue doing this. This is pissing me off. And I was taking a walk with my brother, and he was just like, man, you got to find a way to do what you love. Like, I know you love cars. Like, if you did something with cars, I'd be the first person to back it. And I had a moment, John, where I was like, I've read all the books about positive thinking. I've read all the books about business, not all the books, but you get my point, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a reaction that was very counter to that. I was like, I just had a moment of frustration. I was like, yo, bro, I'm not going to effing become a mechanic tomorrow because I want to be around cars. That's not
right.
Not what I want to do. I want something that is lucrative, and I'm just like, I just don't know what to do. He was like, yo, you just got to just do it. He was like, the plan will come together and you just got to do it. I like it or not. I went home that night. It might have been, it was October 20 something, between the 18th and the 22nd. I had the date starred in my calendar. I went home, I took a shower that night, and I had tears in my eyes. I was leaning on the wall, man. And I was like, man, I just don't know what to do. And then the idea came back to me of doing this show that originally came to me in 2020. I said, well, I already have the idea. 2 days later, within 2 days, my neighbor sends me a message. He wants to make some steaks outside by the pool. I live in a nice apartment complex. You've seen it. So it's 3 of us eating steaks. And one of my neighbors says, hey, what are you up to? And I said, well, I'm getting ready to start shooting for this show that I have.
This is 2 days later. You haven't done crap yet. But you told him.
I'm mentally in the zone. I decided on the tears in the shower.
Love it.
I'm doing this. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I kind of know what I want it to look like. I know that I want it to be me with a person next to me with a car in the backdrop. I got that much. I have a location I want to shoot at, which is a coffee shop that is local to my area that used to be a mechanic shop. So It's got, they did 2 clear garage doors that come down. It was like the perfect location, in my opinion, at the time. And he says, yeah, what are you up to? I say, I'm getting ready to start shooting this YouTube channel. It's called Whips and Wealth. Whips. Yeah. I said, I can't remember if I said wheels or if I said whips, but I probably said whips and wealth.
And I don't love it. So thank God you changed the name.
Well, that came with some coaching, right?
Okay.
I said whips and wealth. And he was like, yeah, tell me about that. So I tell him, I give him the
Khalil, that title can go a lot of directions. I'm glad you got the coaching.
Oh, man. I'll cut back to that point. But,
okay.
Right, because I'm taking 30 minutes to tell you how I came to start.
Wheels and Wealth. Got it. Well, Whips and Wealth, yeah.
Yeah, I tell him, I'm getting ready to start shooting Whips and Wealth. He says, tell me about it. Tell him about it. And he's like, you know what I do, right? I said, he goes, do you have somebody producing it? In my mind, I'm like, producing it? I'm like, nah, not yet. I'm cool enough. Nah, not yet. We're not there yet with it. He goes, that sounds like a dope idea, but you know what I do, right? He says, I do video production, and I've done, campaigns and commercials and this for NYU and XYZ and this, and I want to kind of get into that space. We should talk more about that. I said, cool, no problem. So we're killing the steaks, having a great night. Either the next day or the day after, either the next day or the following day after that, he gives me a phone call. He's like, hey, what are you up to? I said, I'm chilling. He's like, why don't you come downstairs, right? Let's get something to drink. Let's talk more about that idea. I said, all right, cool. So I shoot downstairs. He's my neighbor. And we get into this in-depth conversation. And that has now become the partnership. Like you say, you met some of my guys. Those are my partners. What started out as an idea has now turned into a production that now has 3 partners, myself and 2 other partners, my video producer, who's my neighbor, and the person who's in charge of audio visual, IT design, the studio we shoot out of, and a lot of the business acumen that comes to the table is my third partner. We're all equally partnered in Wheels and Wealth, which came about as a close friend of mine, just saying, hey, maybe you should consider Wheels and Wealth and capture more of a dynamic audience in whips. I was like, all right, cool, sounds. I thought to myself, I said, you know what? I think it was Wheels and Wealth in 2020, but
Yeah.
I was going for like some shock effect. I said, so I'm glad you said that, and that's how the change came about. And yeah, I mean, that was last October. That was a year ago. We started getting the background stuff done, getting the legal aspects of it taken care of.
So how many episodes did you record in season 1?
So you just literally got me there. So in April we started shooting, which is how long ago? May, June, July, August.
Like 6 months, yeah.
Okay. We have 13 or 14 episodes completely.
Wow.
We are in our 6th episode right now.
That's where it's actually rolling out.
Yeah. So our 6th episode is airing now on YouTube. Quick plug, I'll plug it a couple times. You can search Wheels and Wealth Show on YouTube, and you can follow us at Wheels and Wealth on Instagram. But it's been a great ride so far. Learning so much.
No pun intended.
Right.
What are your top cars? So the top 1 or 2 cars that you've had on the show, what are they? And why are they your top cars?
Okay, great question. That's so funny. You sound like me. I'm listening.
That's a compliment. I want to sound like you.
Oh man, that's awesome. So there's a couple different categories, and here's why. We have by far the top car that we've had from a just a visually stunning, the most expensive standpoint is airing on Saturday.
Nice.
I don't know when you're going to play this, but
you mean tomorrow? So we're recording this on a Friday, so it's going to be airing tomorrow. But this will come out on the Monday after, so people can go back and watch this.
Okay, so it's coming. You're releasing like a week later. Yeah, we have episodes we shot in April that are not going to see the light of day for a couple of months. But the top car from that standpoint, it's not the top one that I would want to own, but it's the top one it's the boss hog on set. It's a McLaren Senna. That if the owner has since sold it, but I know where it's listed. It's listed right now for $1.3 million. And it's a great story behind the car. Go check out the episode premiering tomorrow, and you'll learn a lot about
Wheels and Wealth. Check out the episode. Go see this McLaren, and that kind of brings me. But okay, so that's
the top car that we've shot. From
was your favorite?
That standpoint, I have 2 favorites. I think. I don't know. It's tough. You can't really answer that because somebody asks you what's your favorite movie. It's like, well, what genre?
What mood are you in?
Right. What's your favorite song? What? Like, I mean,
right.
I don't have a favorite. I have songs that I love.
Some of your favorite cars. What
some of my favorite cars. We did a Bentley Flying Spur. I believe it's a 2023 Bentley Flying Spur, done in what is the color green? Viridian green. And that belongs to Dean Weitzman, my Philly lawyer.
Wow.
One of the largest personal injury attorneys in the greater Philadelphia area. Awesome guy, just an incredible dude, and very transparent, very just open to helping people. Like I got a lot of love for that dude, man. But his car is boss. Beautiful car. Black, but kind of looks like a very charcoal gray interior with orange stitching and highlights, carbon fiber.
Oh man.
It's a big boy sedan that has a lot of muscles. It's a very masculine car, and it's just gorgeous. My boy Sean Bullard, big real estate developer throughout the Philly area. He came on with a Ferrari Roma. That car is probably closest to it represents like really me. I'm single, I got no kids. It's a coupe. It's black. It's like just very James Bond, Batman
Oh, there we go.
type situation. What else? There was a third one that I really liked. Oh, the Rolls Royce Cullinan was incredible. That episode is aired. Everything I just mentioned has aired already. Rolls Royce Cullinan was epic.
So they parked the car in the background. You've got your stage set up, your studio.
Yeah, it's
And
visually stunning. You've seen,
yeah, I've seen it. And those of you that go check this out, it's
which is why
way
we don't
better.
call it a podcast, because to be
It's a
honest,
show. Yeah.
it's a show. The amount of money that it would take to produce this, if I was paying for it out of pocket, this is not not to dumb down a podcast, but it's not two mics and a
Right.
tape. It's not us right now how we're filming this. It's a full production set.
It's a show.
Yeah, it's a full show. Yeah.
No, it's amazing. But the idea of here's what I love about whether it's interviewing on a show or a podcast or even authoring a book or whatever. One of the things I've always loved about this setting, it's not lecture form, it's conversation form, which makes it easier to digest the information. And one of the books that's had the most impact on me over the years was a book written by Napoleon Hill. It's called The Wisdom of Andrew Carnegie as Told to Napoleon Hill. Okay. And it's a 300-page book, and it's written in interview form. And it says Napoleon, Andrew, Napoleon, Carnegie, whatever. And it's back and forth. And it's kind of a sequel to Think and Grow Rich. Yeah. But I've read it 3 times over the years because of how it's written. And I think that's why I like this format so much. But to me, the informal nature of being able to take in information and then take the information in from somebody else with a vehicle to be able to then share it with the world, I love it. And so like what Napoleon Hill did with Think and Grow Rich and what he did with that book, I wanted to be able to do with people. So almost now what you and I get to do is I want to know, whether it's an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur, what are some of the top lessons that allowed individuals to get into these cars? Let's be honest, they became successful enough to buy a $400,000 car or $1 million car. And I know money's not everything, cars aren't everything to everybody, but the lessons that they had to figure out along the way have to mean something. I want to talk like there's got to be some lessons or some stories that stood out to you.
Honestly, every episode, everyone is unique. Everyone is special. And everyone has wisdom to share. I try as best as you can in this format to go beyond surface level. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to start the show, is because, I get it.
I'm going to reframe the question then.
Okay.
In the last 6 months, Khalil Marcano is probably a different version of himself than he was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And it probably has a lot to do with this journey you've gone on, the lessons you've learned, the conversations you had. So I'd like to start with, how are you different? Maybe identify some of the ways that you are different. And then let's figure out where it came from. What conversations you had, what lessons you have, where did it come from? I'd like to figure that out.
That's a great question. Now I know what people feel like when they go, that's a really good question. Oh, wow. That's a great question. I'm completely different. The reality is I'm very uncomfortable. I'm in a very uncomfortable place. You would think, you know me to be a public speaker.
Very good at it.
Yes, but you know me to be speaking to crowds of people. Hundreds, thousands of people at once. That's where my power has always been. As you know, in the financial services business, we go beyond just dealing on the client side. We're building agencies, and that comes with conducting interviews, recruitment, doing those things to build a
training and developing, motivation.
Doing one-on-one conversations has never been a strong suit of mine. Wow. I shied away from interviews because my power has always been in speaking to masses of people at once, moving crowds.
And just for the audience understands, when I got started in the financial services business, in I guess would have been the summer of 2012, I sat in a group, like 8 or 10 of us in a room, in a conference room, and Khalil was the closeout speaker who had already had experience in the industry. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, you got me sold on this. It was your public speaking and your ability to deliver a message. You were the closeout speaker in a group interview setting that I sat in 11 years ago. Yeah. So I want the audience to know that's the connection.
Yeah, man. And I thank you for saying that. It's something that I take pride in, my ability to deliver compelling conversations, compelling speeches, but speaking one-on-one to individuals has not been a strong suit outside of dealing with our clients, obviously. Right. So even that is different for me because I have to be a lot calmer, right? I have to be a lot more focused, not just focused, but I can't come with, imagine delivering the energy of a stadium speech to one person. You're going to blow their hair off. You know what I mean?
Right.
So from that standpoint, it's been uncomfortable. It's been uncomfortable from a business standpoint. There are things that I know about business, but there are things that I don't know. There's a large technical aspect to the production. I'm not in production. This is my first stint in full-fledged production. My partners bring all the technical aspect to the table. So there was a point, man, let's just say I've been uncomfortable more so than I have been in many years because I was already accomplished in financial services. So I was coasting.
So getting outside your comfort zone and putting yourself in a position where you had to rely on other people's expertise, become the student again, put yourself in a situation where it's not, you can't do it in your sleep. You're not going to do it subconsciously anymore. You're very consciously aware of some of the things you're doing. This has caused you to grow again.
Absolutely. I'm working harder than I've worked in years.
Wow.
That's the truth. I'm prospecting. Right. So there's a lot of familiarity from the financial services business to this, a lot of things that transfer: prospecting, interviewing, obviously, closing, referrals, follow-ups, product knowledge, knowing the cars, knowing the individual, knowing their background, knowing what to speak about, all of those things. But in terms of growth, let's get to the point of the question. Most of the people that I'm sitting with are far more successful, especially monetarily, than I am, and just experience-wise. So most of the clients that a lot of us, you're more successful monetarily than the vast majority, I think. I can't speak to your book of business, but I'm more successful than the majority of my clients. Most of the clients that I deal with are starting their financial journey, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s. Especially if you're dealing in an urban environment when it comes to financial services, no one has ever really taken the time. Actually, it's not just urban. If you're not wealthy, a lot of people have not taken the time to sit down with you to talk about the basics.
Most are starting from scratch.
Correct. And it doesn't matter really what age. It's really a wealth and a class thing. Everybody that we're interviewing is more successful.
Different game.
And it's very sobering, and you are the ultimate student. So absolutely. Growing, listening to their journey and listening to their advice, because I'm applying some of those things to the show. I'm applying those things to my life from this point forward. I'm like a guest on my own show, even though I'm the host. Excuse me, not a guest. I'm like a viewer, right? On my own show, even though I'm a host. So yeah, I mean, bro, we've had people we've got Jeff who is not inherited, but he runs a jewelry business, but he's inherited a name, right? Kelmer Jewelers, and he had to rebrand that, and he's had his own struggles there. Listening to Dean Weitzman and his journey, just that interview will blow your socks off, man. I'm telling you, like, seriously. He talks about going from being one of the top personal injury attorneys, being a partner at the firm that he basically helped start, dealing with drug addiction, substance abuse, losing his license to practice law for a period of time, having to take his name off the wall, then go back as a paralegal. Then he gets into the client side and some of the cases he's dealt with, coming back from all of that, and it's like, there's so much you learn, because I've lost a lot in my business journey. I've lost a lot making mistakes. I've lost a lot of money. I've lost influence. I've seen my business go up and I've seen it bottom out. And you listen to a story, for instance, just for example, like his, and you're like, oh, I got way more to go. I got way more to give, right? You listen to someone like, you talk about passion. You think I have a passion for this, right? We interviewed the former head of global design for General Motors, Ed Welburn, okay? And I'm going to be honest with you. I would have never guessed. You could have bet me $30 million that was a black man. Absolutely not. Now, he's not famous in terms of entertainment standards, but he's an icon in the automotive industry.
Wow.
He's done Leno. He is basically responsible for the current and the previous generation Corvette. I don't remember. I'm a movie buff, but I don't know if you remember when the first Transformers movie launched with Michael Bay directing the branding of the Chevrolet Camaro when Bumblebee came out. That's him.
Wow. So you got this guy on your show.
And it was listening to his story that hasn't aired yet, but it was incredible. We have BK Fulton, who was an entrepreneur at the highest levels, right? He talks about pulling in, taking his first big corporate job, where I think he went to work for AOL at the time, and they gave him a $2 million signing bonus. You want to talk about entrepreneurs. Man, you and I know a lot of people that are running businesses, probably me included. If somebody gave me a $2 million signing bonus tomorrow, I'll go work for them for a little while.
You might have some thoughts. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So this is interesting, because I think this could set the table for the person who listens to my podcast, for the most part, is the person who may have a job currently, and they're trying to level up. Otherwise, they don't listen to podcasts like this. And they're either looking for, they're either going to do it in corporate America or they're going to do it in business, but they're looking to level up. And one of the things that's always stood out, I'm going to say a cliche phrase that I think is very powerful. I think it's a lot of truth to it. Okay. And you're living it, you're embodying it. And I'd love to get your comments on it. It is this: your network is your net worth and your energy is your currency. And what the people you're connecting with now, you're not connecting with them by accident. They said yes to your show. So what does that phrase mean to you?
Everything. Everything. Your network, we'll break it down. Your network is your net worth. I don't have the money to produce what we have. I'm always going to be transparent. So if you lock in, to this episode, whatever you title it as, anybody who's watching this, you're going to get the transparent truth. I don't have anything to fake. I like to think that I'm very authentic, good or bad, right? I don't have the money to produce what we're producing. Do you know what it costs to produce an episode of what we produce?
I'm curious.
My partner told me roughly about, depending on the ep we shot, once you factor in editing, staff to deal with on-set staff, all of that thing, the usage of the space, you're talking, depending on which episode it was, $25,000 to $40,000 per episode. We're 16 episodes shot as of today. 13, sorry. I think 13. I don't have that to put out on a show right now. You understand?
Right.
So my network allowed me to sell two people out on an idea that has now become, it went from the idea phase to reality. My network, or our network, I don't really like to use my, because I don't really do anything by myself besides, I don't know, go to sleep and wake up in the morning, right? But our network has allowed us to land the guests that we've landed. You don't get somebody like the gentleman I mentioned. His name is Ed Welburn, the former head of global design for GM. I believe the first person ever in his role of global design to to do it for all of GM's operations. You don't do that because, hey, you decided to start a show. You gotta have relationships, and those relationships translate into being able to do things like that. And the things that we have coming in the future is all relationship based.
And all relationships have to be a two-way street, which means you've gleaned value from this network, allowing you to start this show. But in order to do that, you've had to give value. You have to, you are valuable.
100%. And you got to be at a very base level. You got to be likable. If people don't like you, they're not doing anything to help you. I'd like to think most of our guests, if not all of them, like me, right? And I love them right back, because we're authentic, and what we're trying to do, not trying, but what we're doing, speaks to a certain level of importance, and for not just for their life, but a greater level of service to people. And, somebody who might just casually come across as like, oh, cars aren't important. To who? There are people who have built entire companies right now that are servicing the world, doing cancer treatments. You know why? Because they wanted to do something that allowed them to get a car that they thought about when they were a kid. And that idea has now transformed or evolved into something that provides a greater service for people. But to the second part of your point, what was it? Network
your energy is your currency. Some people believe it takes money to make money. Maybe, but what if you don't have money? What if all you have is your energy?
I believed it. I believe that. And to my brother's point, he said, you don't need any money. It'll come together. You just got to go do it. And when you hear stuff like that, you really want to slap the shit out of the person because you're like, duh, just shut up. Right? Just go do it, and it'll come together, and God and the universe. And you're like, bro, just all right, man.
It would be way easier if I had an extra $100,000 laying around and I could just snap.
If I had $1 million right now sitting, you know how much easier my life would be if I won Powerball when it was at $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? Or close to $1.5 billion. Yeah, I'm taking that. But no, all jokes aside, I was serious about that. But all jokes aside, it's like when people say, "Oh, you don't need money to make money." It's like you do and you don't. You do need it when you need it, right? But in this particular case, and in many cases, it's like, hey, I had an idea, and I said the idea at the right time to the right person, and it was the right time because my energy said, I'm doing this, and this is happening right now. And the forces, the forces from God, right? I could say the universe and make it more universal. Whatever you believe, okay, whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whatever, because my energy said, hey, listen, I'm doing this. I'm not waiting any longer. I'm dead serious about it, and I'll figure it out as I go. You spoke about one of your favorite books. One of my favorite books, where is it? Right up here, right? You can't see it. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I have it perfectly seated up there, so I don't want to move it, and then you hear a bunch of stuff come crashing down, right? Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. If Felicia Turner ever watches this episode, she'll crack up because she says it's one of the 3 books, or the only books that I read. I read it continuously, probably one time, once a year at least.
Wow.
He says one of the differences between rich and poor people, wealthy people and poor people. Wealthy people, their strategy is ready, fire, aim. You heard that?
Oh yeah, the order.
Ready, fire, aim.
The idea of you can't steer a parked car.
Poor people is ready, aim, 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 aim.
All right, we're going to use a car analogy.
Trust themselves enough that they will get started. They'll figure out how to adjust their cells along the way, and they'll get in, make the money, and get out. Poor people spend so much time trying to figure out what to do on the sidelines that they never get started. By the time they get started, the wealthy people have already done it, got in and got out and moved on.
So for your next episode, I fully expect you to give me a shout out and steal this analogy because it goes with Wheels and Wealth. But
I almost want to grab my pen. I do. Go ahead.
So my 5-year-old son, who he says to me, Daddy, I want to drive the car. Of course, I put the car in park, turn the car off, put him in the driver's seat. and he's doing this with the steering wheel and he's steering the car, right? Car ain't moving. And this idea that you cannot steer a parked car. But kids, they light up with the idea of steering, right?
Because they have vision.
That car's got to be moving though for the steering to actually do anything.
Yes.
And I think so many times people get in the car of business, they get into business and they act like the 5-year-old. They're doing this with the wheel. Car ain't going anywhere. The steering wheel is actually not doing anything. And rather than putting their foot on the gas pedal, going down the road, and then the steering wheel, they start making adjustments. You don't have to use that in your next episode. I was joking, but that, what you just said with the ready, fire, aim, I was like, yeah, steer a parked car. You can't do that either.
It's the truth. But I'll say this right now. But number one, the beautiful thing about children, and this is the difference between children and adults. A child can't steer a parked car because their vision allows them to see where they're going to be in the future. And adults, and one of the things that suck about being an adult is you got to go out and you got to make shit happen because you're an adult. And you can no longer steer a parked car. That vision has to transfer to you moving the transmission from parking to drive, and you got to go.
That child has all the fun and all of the fulfillment of imagining the car moving. And as adults, we don't get to do that.
Nah.
The car has to move.
Yes, absolutely. And and I think that's with anything, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur, whatever that vehicle is, you need to get in it and move with it. And I think for me, to dial back to one of your earlier questions, how have I changed? I'm becoming a better business person. I'm becoming, for so long, I've led people. That's what I've done. I've led agents. I've led financial professionals. Right now, I'm in a different space and I'm borrowing from a lot of the things I learned: leadership, communication, business acumen. But it's funny, like, theoretically speaking, okay, and I hate to say this, but to a degree, I'm the least valuable person in my own idea.
That can be a good thing.
The show in its current phase can operate without me. They can get another host. They can get one that's slimmer, right? Because that's another thing. You see yourself on camera, boy. Woo! I lost like 25 pounds from the time we started shooting in April to now over the past 6 months, right?
Congrats on that.
I saw myself, I was like, whoa, that does not look at all, right? So some of the episodes people see, they're gonna be like, you can tell which of the later episodes, right? But I mean, my producer brings real technical expertise and value.
Wow.
Our other partner, a real AV value, real business, different business acumen, not just real, but from a different perspective than I've had. So I'm really, as much as I am a partner in this idea, as much as I am the person who thought of the show, as much as I am the person who leads a lot of the creative direction with what we shoot, how we shoot it. And when both my partners, we all kind of interchange roles there. I find myself saying, Khalil, all right, we got to level up now. Now's the time we have to sleep maybe a little bit less. Truly, right? And we have
you recognized a moment.
Yeah. And I gotta go prove to myself that I'm ready for where we're going, because things are moving really fast. You know,
wow.
The furniture for the set was purchased like the week before we started shooting. And that was normal for them. I was freaking out. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't ready for a whole host of reasons that I probably won't go into right now. I wasn't ready. You know what? I mean, we'll talk about it. My financial business took a dip. You know me to be making 6 figures. Like I dipped some. And then this thing came about, Wheels and Wealth, and I got other people involved and sold out on the idea, and everybody's ready to move. Those things that cost money I wasn't ready for it. And I had to make it happen on the spot. And it's like, oh, this is a very uncomfortable space. So even that, and it's like, all right, we're still pushing forward. We still got to get it done. And it really tests not your limits, but it tests it, it tests how serious you are.
It'll test your commitment
about getting the job done and doing something special, because I'm telling you right now where we are, this is a lot. We have a unique show, John, but where we're going in terms of what we're going to be creating is going to be something that no one has really ever seen in this space. And no one has seen it coming from someone who's not famous, right? I didn't do this because I want to be famous. I have zero, I want the money, right? They can keep the fame. But no one's doing this in this space that isn't famous. There's no one in this particular space of entertainment specific to cars and success that's Black, that's young, relatively young, right? That's doing this. And where we're going is so far beyond a YouTube channel.
Love it.
We're creating a lifestyle brand that is going to be all inclusive of everything that is attention to detail, that is luxury, that is accoutrements, that is success. And it's not show. It's real people speaking about real life and real advice, what I like to call actionable intelligence. I think if you put into what we're producing, you can take real points away, much like what we're talking about now, real points away, and hopefully take some of that and add it into your repertoire, your war chest of knowledge that you can act on and use it in your own path, your own career, your own life. And I think that's really the differentiating factor from us, because it's not talent that sets us apart, right? You got to be talented to a certain level to play sports, to act, to sing, and to dance. But to do what we're doing, to do what any of our guests are doing, takes hard work, and it takes commitment, and it takes focus. And anybody who's serious about replicating that, they can go to work after watching one of our episodes. I'm not saying you can go build a skyscraper after watching one of our construction guys come on, but that's another piece of the puzzle that you can get that you would not have really have had access to otherwise. And we're very serious about bringing real information to the table.
Well, I love that. As we kind of wrap up, I think it's a cool place to land at the end here. And that is, and probably due for you'll get asked a second time, because I think so many times I get to have people on here the first time and we get the story, but then the second time we can skip the story part and go into some more, the steak part of it, get some of the meat off the bone.
Now I'm nervous. I'm like, man, all right, so I heard wrapping up. Damn, we're done already. Did I deliver value? That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
All right, well, I'm going to help you. First of all, yes, I want to have you back because you delivered value. But isn't it amazing how fast 45 minutes goes when you're having fun and you're talking about things you're passionate about? This is where I wanted to finish.
Yeah.
There's your passion and there's your gifts. Mm-hmm. And you've got a passion for business. You've got a passion for cars, and you've got a gift for speaking and communicating.
Thank you.
And you figured out a way to take your passion and your gift. And I think a lot of people, they lead with passion. They kind of understand their gifts, but they leave maybe the work ethic at home. They leave the execution at home. They pack in their backpack. They pack all their fears and insecurities. They take those with them, and they think that their passion and their gifts alone are going to lead them. But yes, you've led with it. There's some things you had to bring with you. There's some things you had to ditch to allow your passions and your gifts to shine. And you've talked a lot about it today, but I think the passion and the gifts part, you figured that part out. And it still doesn't mean that you can't, you're still going to have fears. You're still going to have failures. You're still going to have insecurities. You still got to bring the work ethic. You still got to bring the execution. It's not always going to be, well, John, I'm passionate about this, and today was not a fun day in business. Right. And not every day in business is fun, but you're still working at something you're passionate about.
Absolutely, man. If there's anything I can leave your guests with that can identify with anything I've said, I would say, if you haven't gotten started, get started. figure out just the first step you can take. For me, the first step was not landing a partner. I didn't see myself partnered with anyone. For me, the first step was to speak to the guy again, because I had a conversation with him who owned a coffee shop that I wanted to shoot at and say, hey, listen, we're going to shoot. And the second step was going to be lining up, purchasing some cameras and some phones and some stands to kind of shoot. So I'd take the step, right? Shoot and adjust your aim as you go. You got to trust somebody. There are conflicting viewpoints on how one should conduct business. I have guests that come on my show and they say, hey, listen, you got to run everything yourself. That's the only way to really get anything done. And I have other guests that says, hey, listen, I don't know how the hell I would have gotten anything done without what my partner and what my partners bring to the table. My philosophy is you're going to have to trust someone. I had 100% of an idea. That was an idea. And it had been for 3 years. And now I have an equal partnership of a business that is in motion. And I feel that we can go a lot further together than I would have been able to get on my own. And that took trust.
Well, I think I want to leave the guests with something then, and that is find someone to trust, but become somebody worth trusting.
Oof. And that's a big one, man. That is huge. Go on.
Well, because what you just said, this is the point of the podcast is I'm learning from you.
Yeah.
And you saying you got to find someone to trust. I went, well, it is a two-way street. So while I'm looking for that person that I can trust, that can help me, am I becoming the person that could be trusted? And a lot of times that's it. So you've taught me something today.
It's big.
It's huge.
That's thank you. I mean, at least I left you with something, because now the whole 45 minutes is a blur to me. I don't even remember what I spoke about. But I would say my last point is be committed to growing and getting better, whether that's reading, but it has to go beyond that. You got to really get better. Like we have, for example, not to go off on another tangent, but we have now opportunities that are coming our way as a result of what we do. And for a second, like we took a meeting recently and I was like, damn, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know where I fit in here, because I told you, like, like my partners bring certain technical expertise. I don't have that expertise. And I'm not looking to become somebody who becomes a technical expert in production, right? I need to know enough to build businesses. That's kind of how I look at it. And I was honest about that in our talk after the meeting with one of my partners. And he said, you're the connector. He was like, you connect. You're a connector of people. And I had to think about that. I was like, he's right. He's right. That's what I've been doing. I've connected us to 2 people thus far, 2 entities, one who's taken on our marketing, another who is dealing with our social media strategy at no cost out of pocket, by the way, up front. A lot of the guests that we're landing, all of the, those things. And he's like, yeah, so that's where you fit in this until it's something else and someplace else.
And it's impossible to be a connector unless you're trustworthy.
I'm going to say thank you again. I love the compliments.
Well, Khalil, this is going to be up there, man. We're going to get this out to the audience. This is going to go out there as one of the really cool episodes. A lot of great nuggets. Thank you. Thank you for being on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And please invite me back once Wheels and Wealth is a household name.
Ooh.
And
if I'm privileged enough to be able to get you back on my schedule,
you'll get the main phone number.
There right? You go. I love it.
We'll always have contact, but honestly, thank you for having me. And for anyone who watches this, I really do hope that I brought, you can kind of dig through the weeds and see through the madness. And I hope that some part of our conversation was valuable to you.
Well, I already know it did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.